All right, we got a recording in progress. You guys can see my screen?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right, cool. Don't hesitate to stop and hop in and ask questions. Now, everybody here have already turned in their assignment 1, right?
Yes.
All right, cool. I want to, the reason why I want to go back over this is because I want to review a few things, and then we're going to hop in going over assignment 2. And if we got time, we might even do assignment 3. So, because I want to help you get through this as quick as possible. All right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fork this. Y'all know how to fork it. It's always cool to, go through and play around with that. And then just to make sure it works. And then I'm gonna hit the replicate, fork it. All right. So I'm forked in. Now, let me show you a little tool with y'all if you don't already have it. Is to split your screens. If you're on Mac, this is all you got to do is pull it down and pull it to drag it to, and then pop into place. It does it on Windows as well. But if you don't know how to do it, and if you want to just use the browser, there's a Chrome extension called Resize it. And let me if everybody doesn't have it, I'm just gonna Google it real quick. Resize, what I want to say, screen, well, split screen, resize it, split screen layout. And this is it right here. It's called Tab Resize, split screen layout. This is a Chrome extension, cool little extension. And then just go ahead and add it to your Chrome when you're ready for it. And then you see this little, see my cursor up here at the top. If you click on that little, look like a puzzle piece, and then you go down to your resize it and then pin it, it'll stay up here on your little toolbar. So sometimes you may not know that if I unpin all this stuff, you won't see any of that stuff up there. But if I pin it up there, because you may use it more often. So you pin the things up there that you use a lot. And so this is how this works. So when I click on it, and then I'm gonna do the 1 by 2, it's gonna split the screen. It didn't split mine because for some reason I got to do this, but there, I just minimized it. So it splits my screen. So we're able to see as I'm talking and typing at the same time. And you might want to do that, especially if you only have one screen. I have multiple screens here. I got my laptop and I have 2 screens. That's why it looks like I'm looking over here at y'all because I have y'all on this screen right here. All right, so here we go. And I'm looking at this screen. So now, for those that didn't know that, some people had struggled. They struggled with this right here because they didn't know where to start putting in their code, and they was putting the code in the wrong place. They was putting it inside the index.js. You want to be in the candidate testing.js. That's where the actual code lives that you're gonna write. Now, let me just go over this real quick. This right here, this little section right here, let me make it bigger so I can kind of go over it. This section right here is your code editor. All of this and this third right here is your code editor. This is your console. And this over here, of course, is your files. If you click this little button right here, it collapses the file for you so you can have more room. But then if you open it up, then you can find everything. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about yet, but we will down in the chapter, I like to go over this because this is important. This is specs. Your specs have your support in here for Jasmine. As you can see, we wrote some rules right here. This is some rules and some code. You're going to be doing this a lot in programming, understanding where your rules are, how you want things done. So this is Jasmine. This is a testing library. This is how we test your code. So when we run your code, we wrote a test, and here's the test right here. This is a test, right? This is the test that we wrote. So, don't change anything in here, but you come in here and look at it just to see this is what we're looking for. So when we write the test, we're looking for, did you do candidate name as a string? Then we made the function, we pass in these arguments as spec, and we'll go over testing, how to write test, unit tests. In that unit test section. But as a developer, you're going to want to learn how to write tests. You're going to have to test your code because you don't want to keep rewriting stuff over and over. You want to make sure that stuff breaks early on and you know where it broke so you can fix it. If you don't write the test, it breaks. You won't know where the problem is, especially when you got over 1,000 lines of code.
Is that kind of an easy way to see your order of operations in the code, Terrence?
Yes, you can look at it that way because your order of operations, or better yet, how it reads. Everything reads from top to bottom. We call it the DOM. And the DOM reads from top to bottom. And what the compiler does, if I had it, like I said, look at my cursor. So I'm gonna use my cursor as a compiler. It starts up here at 1. And then it reads that whole line, then it drops down to 2 or 3. Then it reads that whole line, and then it sees these little brackets right here. It sees the curly brace. It knows that, okay, there's some code block here. Matter of fact, it sees this parentheses. It knows that this is some type of a function. And it says describe, it sees the parentheses. It's going to be expecting a closing parenthesis at the end. And so it goes through and read the information. Then it comes to this function. So, okay, there's a function here. And then we're going to see a curly brace. That means there's a code block that it's looking for. Then it drops down to line 7. It sees another function that's called the it, and it sees that open the parenthesis. It reads what's inside that, and you notice it's a nested function in there. And then it says it's a closing, and so you get this closing bracket and closing parenthesis. It lets the compiler know, and then right here you use that closing. We got a semicolon to let it know to stop. Well, it knows that this is one function right here. This is the big function. All of these little small functions are stored in this one big function. And all it does is go through and test. Now, the reason why you only need one function is because it's one page. You're going to have one of these for each page, for each section of whatever code that you write. You're going to have a function for that to hold the main function to describe what it is, or a certain section. So let's say, for instance, you're writing some functions, and they're all about a component. We deal a lot with components. So you have this component, and in that component, you have all of these different functions in it. Well, this right here will go to the main component that's described, and it gives you some instruction. It's self-documenting. This is what self-documenting means. This is being documented right here. So, because wherever there's a problem, it'll let you know that it's in this section. And then it's going to let you know which one of these nested functions is where the problem is, where the test fails. And then you'll learn this when you go through. And as you can see right here, I guess I shouldn't be showing you that right now, but you can check your answers. You want to know, okay, do I have the right answer? So it's good to know this, because sometimes you'll be wondering why your test is failing. Then you can come in here and look and say, because it's looking for this. This is where that answer comes in at. All right. All right. So I just want to kind of share that with y'all. So that's inside your support. And this is the rule that we wrote to be able to find that test. And I'll break this down in some videos, because I actually have some older videos that I broke this down on. All right, so that's your spec file. Your get ignore file, that means when we get into version control, we have something we call Git. We got GitHub, we got Bitbucket. There's so many of them out there, but those are the main two that most developers use, Bitbucket and GitHub. And here we call this the get ignore, because we don't want all of these files to be pushed into our repository. This is the no module file right here. That is a huge file. You don't want that to be in your repository. All you want in your repository is just the files that you're working on. The no modules are files that are, that's why we got that read line sync. That read line sync, it comes from this module right here, and this is called a package manager. It has a lot of files in it, and it files in it that it used to be you had to create all these different packages just to get your program to run. But no modules realize, hey, let's just put the packages that everybody is using, and then you'll be able to pull it into your code that way. But you don't want to commit this. We call committing. You do not want to commit this to your repository because it's huge. Sometimes it take a while to just delete that folder off of out of your program, because sometimes you have to delete it because something ain't working right. And then also the VS Code. VS Code is a text editor. So I guess they're building Replit on VS Code. So all of it, and we're gonna download VS Code if you ain't already did it yet. That's gonna be the text editor that you're gonna work with. Now, there's a difference between a text editor and an IDE. IDE, IntelliJ is an IDE. When you get over to Java, we use IntelliJ. IntelliJ is more robust. You're going to find out when you're doing server-side programming, there's a lot of stuff that you got to do to make it work. On the front end, you're just dealing with JavaScript. That's it. That's why you only need a code editor or a text editor to do that. Okay. So far, you know that here's all the packages file. You're going to have one of these in any program that you create. When you start creating programs, we call this the package JSON. The package JSON is you see that read-line sync right there? That's one of our dependencies right there. This is inside your package JSON. When you first create a package JSON, when you start learning how to create them, all you're going to do is an npm init. And that npm init is going to ask you a couple of questions like the name, the version, the description, how you're going to get access to the file. You know, this is the main index.js. That's the one right here. This is how you get access to the file. Do you notice right here? This is the main, we got a variable called quiz. And you see that require? That require knows to go get access to this. So this is a module. This candidate testing right here, that's a module right there now. And it's getting access to it, to this index.js. And what it's doing quiz.program. This is how it knows to go through your program and run your program. And we got that run program. Now, when you talk about index.js, this is your entry point to your application. That's what that means. So this is the stuff that gets served up to your server. And what it does, it goes through and it looks for this particular file right here that we have for you. And remember when I was hovering over that export, this was inside of it. And so here at index.js, the program knows quiz. Quiz is the variable that's holding that candidate testing. And so I do a quiz. Now, do anybody remember what all of this is right here? Can anybody explain to me? Break this down. This is 3 parts. Break the 3 parts down for me.
Quiz is your object, and then you got your dot notation.
Mm-hmm.
And then the method is the run program, no?
How do you know that's a method?
Because it's to the right of the dot.
And what's the other?
Is the object. The quiz is the object.
Yeah, quiz is that, but how do you know program is a method?
Because I don't know. As you explained it the other day, it's because it's to the right of the decimal.
Well, parentheses. There you go. The parentheses.
Okay.
So remember that. That's why I want to drill you, because I want y'all to remember this, because you'll get hemmed up when it comes down to a property. You put a property on the right side of the dot, and it doesn't have parentheses. So that's how you know the difference. It's amazing, man. This stuff is well thought out. Programming, the people that created these programs, they have rules and principles that are well thought out. And so you have run program, and it's a method. It's only going to be a property or method. So you have an object on the left side. You have the access modifier or the dot notation. And on the right side, you run either a property or a method. That's the rule. It's always going to be a property or a method. If you see that, but when we start getting into method chaining, you'll start understanding that even more. And then when we start getting into inheritance, now when you start getting into what we call libraries like React or Angular, frameworks like Angular, you can chain objects to object means to object. So you can have it's called inheritance. You have a parent and then you have a child. You use that too, but we're going to deal with that later on. But I want to make sure you guys got a solid understanding. So now y'all understand how this program is actually running. How many of y'all try to play around with these files to see what's in them? Anybody look inside of them?
Nope, they told us not to.
They told you not to because we want to guide you. And the reason why I'm showing you to do this with guidance, because as a developer, you have to know how this stuff works. We want to build upon it. And once you know how it works, guess what? It'll make more sense to you. And so, like I was showing you, over here in the package JSON, we give you dependencies. We're using the Jasmine dependency, the readline sync dependency, and then you have what we call dev dependencies, only for the development of your program. You're going to put those here. You notice there's nothing in there right now, but as you become more familiar with writing programs, you're going to have dev dependencies that you only want to run locally on your machine. And this is the global one, dependency. This is everything. This touches everything. And then we got a script. You write scripts because you want to automate some stuff. Like for instance, when you start getting into NPM start, we can put a start script here where we start the program with a shorthand notation. And that's what scripts for, is when you want to automate something or you want a shorthand notation. And then you notice here we have repository right here. Inside the repository, we have the type of Git. So Git is the foundation of what GitHub and repositories are built on. Everything is built on Git. And then here's the URL. As you can see, we have a URL. This is a variable. These are all variables right here. And then this is where it goes right here to that GitLab. That's the address. That's the path. PATH. That's the path that is going to. And then we got Arthur here. We got empty. We don't know who the author is, so it's just empty. So it doesn't matter here. But when you start creating your own application, you might want to stick your name right there. Let everybody know this is my stuff. And then you got your licenses. There's many different types of licenses. As you can see, you got the ISC, you get the MIT, you got different licenses that you use, because a lot of this stuff is for public use. And so it's letting this one is ISC. This is not mainly public. You still got to have permission to use this stuff from launch code, basically. So these are licenses that you may want to, in your spare time. What are these licenses? What they mean? It's just going to make you overall better developer over time. Every project has a README in it, and they didn't put nothing in it. So a README, can anybody explain to me what a README is good for?
I'm guessing there's going to be direction, some sort of indication of what's taking place.
That's right. Instructions. You tell it because you may have to tell a person how to run the program. You may let them, hey, this is how you run this program. This is what this program does. These are the type of modules and components that we're using. So in your README, it's a documentation, really. And, if something is deprecated, you may put that in your README and say, hey, this has been deprecated, but this is the workaround for right now. So READMEs are very helpful. Not everybody do them. I'm one of those people. I'm guilty of that. All right, y'all. So I kind of gave you a high-level view of how the program is working, right? So now let's get back to it. Is this being helpful? Is this information helpful to y'all? I see one head nodding to me.
It's a lot, but it's, I think over time, yeah, it will.
That's it. Well, think of it like this. If you get exposed to it down the road, you can be like, oh, you know what? He kind of talked about this. What was that he said? Let me go back and look at my notes. What is that? Oh, we did talk about this because I thought this was introduced to me before. So it's a good start. Now, what we're going to do is, because you all have your assignments done, I want y'all, let's walk through this together because I want to make sure y'all understand this before we go into part two and before we go into everything else. So this is basically the review. So you're writing this for the first time. Well, I ain't gonna say the first time, you've been doing it, but what I want you to do, I want y'all to all step up because this is the only way you're going to learn. If you can explain this stuff, that means you got a better understanding of what you're learning. If you can't explain it, that's okay. Let's help you understand it. So that's why I want everyone to take a stab at it before I review. Okay, yeah, I agree with that. Or if you agree with it, everybody say I agree with it. If it's someone else to say, hey, I don't understand that yet, we need to discuss it. So and I'm gonna call your names out, okay? So please don't be offended and everything, but trust me, it's a method here of how we're gonna do this. So we're gonna start off. I'm just going by. The best way to do this would be to. I'm gonna go by participants. I got the participants, and it's gonna be going from top to bottom. Okay, so Anjana, did I say your name right? Anjana. Anjana. All right, how you doing this morning? Go ahead and start at line 1. Explain this to me.
So candidate names.
Yeah, we're on line 1. Oh, I'm sorry, right over here in my replit.
Okay.
Line 1 of my replit in that code. What is that all about? Break that down to me.
So you are taking input from the user.
And what is that called?
Read line sync.
Yeah, but what is input called?
It's an object.
But what else? What first thing you see, what is it called? What are those called?
It's a variable.
There we go. And what is a variable?
It's like a container where you put the data.
Put the data in there. Okay, awesome. And what is that word before it? What is that called?
Constant.
And what is const?
So you are setting that variable constant. You are not going to change it later.
Okay. All right. And that means it keeps everything final. All right, cool. All right. You answered that part. I'm going to give somebody else a chance. Christopher. What's up, Chris? Can I call you Chris?
Yeah, Chris is fine.
All right, cool, Chris. Next. What is this part right here then? What is that called?
That's it's not equals. It's is it like this is the operator or is that?
It is an operator, but what kind of operator?
Consulate.
So
Is it like this is the not initializing, or this is like this declaring?
Yeah, but what's the technical term? Because I want y'all to know the technical terms of everything, because that's what's going to help you do your research.
Oh, I don't know the technical term, or I don't remember it.
That's okay. And this is why we review. It's assignment operator.
Oh.
And I want you to call it that. I want all of y'all to get in your head assignment operator, because when we look at certain words, and this is going to help you guys when we start learning how to do what we call pseudocode. If you know what you want to associate certain words with certain things. So like, for instance, when you get into the real world as a developer, we got these things what we call ACs. They call acceptance criteria. These are a part of your stories. In your stories, we're going to be given instructions on what we need to do. And this is what this story accepts to be done. It's called definition of done. And so here, these questions that we're asking you to do things, these are like your acceptance criteria. This is information that you won't even know about until you get into your career. But I'm telling you this now because I want to make sure y'all all are well-rounded when you leave here, that you can say when you go to those interviews and they start asking you, hey, do you understand Scrum? Do you understand Agile? And you can break it down. Yeah, in Scrum, we do this. We create our stories right here, and then we have our acceptance criteria. Well, these questions are like your acceptance criteria. And one of the things you want to do is, one, you want to ask good questions because you want to make sure you have an understanding what you want, what you need to do. So when I sit here and I read this, ask for the candidate's name, look for to do 1.1a in the starter code, and it tells me, give me instructions on the line below this to do comment. Define a variable called candidate name. Well, if this wasn't there, I will have to define define a variable called candidate name. How do I declare? And the reason why I'm going through this, I know some of y'all may, it's not tedious, it's reinforcing. I'm reinforcing what you already know so you can recite this stuff. So when you say, when I'm talking to Terrence, Terrence is going to drill me. He's going to make sure I review, because like I said, you don't want to get down to chapter 15 and you're still struggling calling it an equal sign and not an assignment operator. And you can't remember that it's an assignment operator. So I just want to make sure y'all get it. We're going to get this because this is just going to help you. Trust me, I struggled with this for years. So like, before I go further, like I was saying, I'm a drill you on how to answer these questions. So now we know that's an assignment operator, right? And the reason why it's not an equal sign, not like in math, is because everything on the left of an assignment operator is a variable, and everything on the right is the value. That makes sense, right? Now, the next person